One of the biggest downfalls out of anything in Call of Duty would have to be the custom games feature from multiplayer. The term custom games has kind of morphed into just being private matches. I think they kind of interchangeably use them depending on the Call of Duty experience, but essentially what this is just a way to play by yourself with your friends online in separate matches of multiplayer, and you kind of set up the match however you want, and then you just go into a match separate from the online experience and just have at it. This is great for people who have a lot of friends and are just kind of tired of the online experience, especially when it comes to stuff like skill-based matchmaking, and they just want to do some matches only against their friends, whether it's like 2v2s, 1v1s, 3v3s, etc. It's also great for custom games, creating your own game mode and kind of just going at it. That's been a very common thing back in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3 especially. But unfortunately, over the past decade, ever since Black Ops 3, custom games has been getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where in Black Ops 6, it is probably the worst version of custom games we have ever seen. I would extend that out to pretty much the past couple Call of Duties as well. Basically, ever since COD HQ is where it's been at its worst. And I wanted to spend this video going over all of the things that I believe have been getting worse and things that really should change in the future. And this is almost just like a complete call to Activision or Treyarch or whoever wants to fix custom games, because I really hope in the future they can actually find a way to fix these problems. The first major issue is simply just the lack of customization. They have taken away so many different features to the point where many of the really fun custom game modes that I used to play with friends back in Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3, you can't even do anymore. At least you can't do them in the same way that you could back in the past because of how limited the custom settings are. There are barely any settings to actually customize within the matches. It's just very general things that you would kind of expect to see, but you can't really go in depth with it, whereas back in Black Ops 2 and 3, you really could get in depth with it to the point where you can create pretty much any experience you want. The most important feature from custom games that we haven't seen since before Black Ops 4 was the ability to edit the preset classes for the specific custom game mode you are creating. So essentially what this means is that when anybody jumps into that custom game mode, they have to choose from the classes that you created. Nowadays, we don't have that anymore. Instead, people have to use their own classes. And this is a problem for a number of reasons. First of all, if you create a custom game mode that you want a bunch of people to jump into and just automatically have the classes that you designed and you want them to use, you don't really have a decent way of doing that. Instead, you have to kind of coordinate with them to get the exact same class that you use, and obviously that is not fun to do, and that's very frustrating. And it's also frustrating because sometimes you might want to create a class that has certain items that that player doesn't have, whether it's specific blueprints or specific weapons. Now, unfortunately, Black Ops 3, although I'm going to praise that system completely in this video, there was one issue with it where if you did put DLC weapons in it, it wouldn't let your friends use the DLC weapons, which was really annoying. But games like Modern Warfare Remastered, they allowed it. So if you had a weapon that someone else didn't have, it didn't matter. If you made a preset class with that weapon, anybody in that game mode can use it, which is completely fine. I don't know why Activision would have a problem with that. Just because you don't own the gun means you can't use it in a private match. It's a private match. Why would that matter? This next point is kind of completely separate from the custom games itself and is more of a problem with the class systems that they've had over the past few years, but also just not having pick 10 also makes it very hard to make actually interesting classes that you can use in specific game modes. Like, there's been so many times where I've wanted to do some sort of lobby with a bunch of other players of, you know, maybe like knives only or something like that, but you can't really do that in this game because your classes have to have guns on them. You can't customize them in a way that remove guns completely. And obviously, if you work out with your friends, like, okay, make sure everyone only uses knives. That doesn't always happen though. Sometimes you get people in your lobby that just decide to break the rules, and I think it's so much easier for people who, especially who want to do like big community events, it's so much easier for them to set them up if the classes are specifically customized in any way they want, and we don't really get that option anymore. And so even with the class system we have in these newer Call of Duties, I would like it if custom games let you take it a step further and literally remove certain things like primary and secondary weapons from the class completely. That would be a great additional customization option. The next option we don't have anymore is the ability to just simply save your custom settings. This one is insane to me, and this has been in most of the Call of Duties, but I've noticed it's been kind of just absent from the COD HQ games. Hopefully it's something they could add in later on, but when you make specific custom settings in custom games, you can't save them. In Black Ops 3, for example, you could save them. You can actually save them to a large list of custom settings, so whenever you wanted to jump into that mode, you can simply just go find that saved custom mode and just jump into it. But now if you want to do that, you have to specifically change the settings every single time you load up private matches, Why? There's no reasons for that. And to take it a step further, back in Black Ops 3, you could actually save your custom game mode to a large community tab of a bunch of other custom game modes, so you can basically share it out with the world, and you could also find other game modes created from other people and it just immediately load into them. Like, stuff like that was so cool and added so much to the community aspect of Call of Duty that's kind of just been lost nowadays. Another thing you can't do anymore is you can't set the game time to unlimited. That is insane, and I know this is probably due to, you know, COD HQ being kind of finicky with the servers, as it's always been, and so they don't want people to be in a, you know, private match for too long of a time. There basically has to be a time limit on it, which is basically what's been happening with zombies. You also can't be in a zombies lobby for that long without doing the whole save and quit thing if you're pressed to pause. That's all frustrating, but yes, they don't let you do that in private matches. At the very least, let us set it to like a really significant time, but you can't even do that. If you play Search and Destroy, the highest limit you can do is I think 5 minutes per round, which is insane because some of my custom lobbies that I used to do in the past, I would have to set it to unlimited or at least a really high amount of time, or else the mode just simply wouldn't work. There is so much more limitations nowadays, and I really don't understand why. You also can't ban specific items anymore, so maybe you want specific score streaks to not be usable or specific field upgrades. You can't do that. Instead, it's just everything is available or nothing's available. Like, what is with the lack of customization? I really don't get it, and it really confuses me. And beyond just a lack of customization in general when it comes to the custom settings nowadays, it's also just really buggy. Probably the buggiest version of custom games we've ever had before. It frequently crashes on me while I'm in the custom game settings. It frequently kicks me out, disconnects me, all those annoying things. It's really hard to actually get friends in the custom games lobby. Now, to be fair, that did happen very frequently in Black Ops 3 as well, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it is nowadays, which is just absolutely insane. And also, the UI is pretty terrible. I know they've fixed the UI when it comes to other parts of the game. They've definitely done a better job with the UI compared to Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, but for some reason, the UI is the exact same in the custom games as it was from MW2 and MW3 now in BO4. Why are they just copy and pasting the exact same UI? I don't really understand that. This next thing is more of a criticism with MW2 and MW3 because I haven't noticed this with BO6 just yet, obviously because we haven't gotten many DLC maps, but for some reason MW2 and MW3 took so long to add the actual DLC maps into the private match rotation. I don't know why, like they just weren't available, especially a lot of the bonus ones, like the special variants of the different maps, they just wouldn't add them to private matches, and it took like sometimes weeks for them to finally add them, or they just would never be added at all, which is really weird to me. Thankfully, Nuketown was added to private matches in Black Ops 6, so they are on the right track there, but I don't want to see that happen again. If they add a bunch of separate variants of maps and they add a bunch of DLC, all of it should go to private matches. Every single map should be available. Overall, this is all very disappointing, and I feel like there probably are reasons for it. I think one of the main reasons is probably just because they underestimate how many people actually use private matches. They assume that most people are using it just for regular like 2v2s, just playing regular Call of Duty, and they don't want people to kind of create their own modes and mess around. They would rather people play the game the way it's meant to be played. But personally, I think that's just so limiting on what Call of Duty can be. There are so many fun modes you can create with your friends, but it needs good amounts of customization for that to be possible. The reason this affects me more than anything is because I actually used to do this really fun game mode with my friends back in Black Ops 3 that unfortunately just really isn't possible anymore with these new Call of Duty games. So essentially what this game was called House Wars. We created this ourselves, I believe. I don't know if anyone else created it before us, but it could definitely be something people have done before. But it was a really fun mode specifically played on Nuketown. You can technically play it on any version of Nuketown. We played it on Black Ops 3 Nuketown, and it was essentially like Rainbow Six Siege, where one team attacks and one team defends a specific house. The team that is defending the house cannot leave the house. They cannot go outside of it whatsoever. They can just, you know, go to the porch and they can jump from the window to downstairs, but they can't like go outside of the house, at least not for like a long period of time, which, like I said, is exactly what Rainbow Six Siege is like. And the way it works is it's round by round, so it's basically like everyone gets 1 life per round, and it's just last team standing for each round wins. It was as simple as that, and we had such a fantastic time. And what made it work so well was specifically specifically because I customized the 5 preset classes to be the absolute worst guns possible. It was like the Gorgon with a suppressor with, you know, a knife as the secondary, and then there was like the SVG with a sniper and a really bad scope, and we had, I think, the Shiva with a suppressor. It was like the worst possible guns you can think of in Black Ops 3, and we just kind of smushed them together on a class. And I very particularly created certain perks and attachment combinations that worked so well with each other and actually made each of the 5 classes very balanced. But that was the appeal of this mode. That was the fun of it, going between these really bad guns and trying to fight each other in this, you know, attack and defend mode. It was such a great time. You can't do that anymore because you can't customize the preset classes. We also needed it to be unlimited time because that was kind of just the way the mode worked, or else it just didn't really make any sense. I can completely understand why most players do not give a rat's ass about this. Most players are there to play the online experience, and then if they want to play a, you know, private mode, they'll go play zombies or something like that. I completely understand that. But personally, for me, it does affect me more than most people, and I think anybody who has ever just really had a good time playing, whether it's like Michael Myers mode in private matches or playing Simon Says, people used to love doing that. So many different modes you can do in private matches, but you just don't really have as many options anymore with how it currently works, and that is just really unfortunate. So please, Activision, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, whoever's listening to this video, please just have some sort of changes made in the future to custom settings, even if it's minor things like what I mentioned in this video, like, for example, allowing us to customize the preset classes. I think that's like the #1 thing that would definitely improve custom games, at least for me. I just think the whole community aspect of Call of Duty would be so much greater if we had more ways to just play in private matches just for fun. And I know they add a lot of LTMs throughout the year that are really fun, but sometimes aren't even available in private matches anyways, so like we can't play those LTMs in separate modes, which I think is unfortunate, at least most of the time. Maybe they sometimes do, but most of the time I don't think they add them to private matches. And like I said, getting to create your own LTMs is so much fun. I think that's just kind of the appeal that Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3 custom games had. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.